Welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we show you how to build a successful business and to have a life too. We're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time and to get off the treadmill so we can experience a life of significance. And now, your host and the author of the #1 best-selling business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, Chuck Blakeman.
Today I'm with Clayton Achen. We've had him on once before, and it was so much fun. We're going to have him on again. Clayton is the visionary driving force behind Achen Henderson, a modern virtual CPA firm that focuses on helping small businesses succeed. Clayton is a small business advocate. He's a tax ninja and a cloud accounting and technology enthusiast and a lifelong student of culture and leadership. His dream is twofold: to be at the forefront of the evolution of the accounting industry and enjoy his life while helping our clients and his clients enjoy building their business. Client also hosts a 3 to 5 club, which is a mastermind to help business owners get off the treadmill and make more money in less time. And he's located in Canada. Welcome to our podcast, Clayton. It's great to have you back.
Thanks, Chuck, for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Let people know very quickly where you are in Canada so they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, I'm in Calgary, Canada. I'm looking at the Rocky Mountains right now.
Nice.
Anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can always find me at achenhenderson.ca, ACHEN, or email me directly, clayton@achenhenderson.ca. Always happy to hear from fellow business owners. So,
all right. So today we're going to talk about something we call freedom mapping. It was in my first book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, which was the #1 business book of the year. So I was honored to have that book rated above books by guys like Seth Godin and Bo Burlingham, really well-known authors. And in that book, we talk in one chapter about freedom mapping. How do we map our way to freedom? In another podcast you might want to listen to with Clayton, we talked about the 7 stages of business ownership and how do we get to stage 5, 6, or 7. And freedom mapping is really where the rubber meets the road. It's that tactical, practical process thing that will get us there. We use traditional process mapping to help you understand this. I'll throw something up quick before I get Clayton involved in this, just so people can get a visual. Here's a typical or atypical, for what we call a freedom map, but it uses process mapping as a way to describe. This one describes our entire business on one piece of paper. We actually have another book that needs to go on there now. So freedom maps are always evolving, but it helps us understand where we are and where we want to end up. And it's that simple. That's what a process map should do, is help us figure out where we are, where we end up. But the reason we call them freedom maps is because we think they have a bigger process or a bigger objective. And that is to help us not just run the process, but run the process so that we can make more money in less time, get off the treadmill, and have every Friday or 2 days a week or 3 days a week where the business can run itself because we've mapped these things. And that gives us freedom. So that's my rant. Clayton, take it from there. How did freedom, when you first saw freedom mapping, how did you respond to it?
So you go, well, we have process mapping. So what's the difference between freedom mapping? And really, to me, the big differentiator is identifying the things that you don't need to be involved in as a leader. You need to substitute other people in or hire other people in to fill those gaps so that you can focus on what you should be focusing on. So just reading that opening context to the chapter, that was eye-opening for me, because you go, how many things, let's write down all the things, all the hats that I wear in a day as an entrepreneur, right? Like if I ever write a book, it'll be called Too Many Hats, and that's copyrighted, patent pending, but we all wear a lot of hats. And you go, well, how many hats can I start to take off here? Because that's my path to stage 5. Right. I want into stage 5, and I need to take off some hats to do that. We talked in our last podcast about building a team, and that's how you do it. Right. And how do you know how to build a team? Well, you know how to build a team by doing some freedom mapping and figuring out what pieces are missing and what's the next most important piece. Because you go, it can be daunting when it's you and another person and resources are tight and I can't go and spend $150K on salaries today. Well, maybe you can hire one person. And what's that next person? Well, I need 5 people. Great. Well, what's the most important next hire to help you get to those next 4? And process mapping really helps you to do that. And I personally believe if you want to have a company that will operate largely independent of you, you've got to nail culture, and that culture is a language. And, that's maybe a whole other topic, vision, mission, core values, the language around the office, the general beliefs of the population at the office. But then they also need to know what's going on and what needs to happen. And that's done through freedom mapping. So that was really, really instrumental over the last, I'd say 7 years in helping us us evolve to 25 people and 6x the revenue than when we started, right? So
let me butt in here and maybe give some peace to the people who are built like me, who hear the term mapping, freedom mapping, process mapping, anything to do with process, and they start to kind of wither. It's like, oh no, I hate this stuff. I am a wild-eyed, entrepreneurial, left-handed, right-brained person. I'm not linear in the way that I live in life. So I don't enjoy mapping a process, but I love what mapping a process has done for me, the freedom it has given me. Let's give them some peace and help them recognize we talk about this a lot. We should not map every process.
No.
We should be why?
No.
How do we know which ones to map so that we don't go crazy? And we shouldn't have to map them ourselves. We can get other people to do it.
Yeah. I mean, so you map what's broken or bound to break. And so you go, well, what's broken or bound to break? Well, broken is I've got accounts receivable of $100,000 and I got no cash. Well, that's a process that maybe needs to be looked at, right? Or, what is broken? And you got to be really honest with yourself. Maybe what's broken or is bound to break is all this stuff just exists in my brain.
Right.
And here I am expecting people to figure it out when all I have to do is write down the steps that are in I get it. All I got to do is write it down and then they, the team can follow it or make it better, right?
And that's the only way you're going to get Friday off if you want Friday off.
It's the only way you're getting Friday off. It's the only way. And
Yeah.
people hate it because, it's faster for me to just do the thing
Yep.
than to teach you how to do the thing. And I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is faster this time for you to do the thing.
Yeah,
But
one
if
time.
you stack those on top of each other, you got 200 things that you've done in the last week that you maybe didn't need to. Well, there's your Friday off.
And a
right?
lot of times it's small things, but we map these processes and we find out that the things that we thought nobody else could do, once we map them, get them out of our head, through our heart, out onto our hands and onto a piece of paper, somebody else looks at that and says, oh yeah, I can do that. And then we find out they can do it better. And it's
Or they go, that's garbage. I got a way better way of doing this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
And that's what we did because I don't like this stuff. The first person I ever hired, I said, okay, let's talk about the result we want. So we agreed on the result we want from hiring her. Here's how much money she'll make. Here's how much money she'll make for us and all that. And here's the results we want. And here's the things we want you to do. Here's your responsibilities. We don't have any maps for this. And I'm not the guy to make the map. I can show you how to make the maps. I've tortured it enough that I can show you the 9 steps to make a map. And so I showed her how, and I said, here's the results we want. Here's the general ideas of what we want you to do. Now, as you're doing these things, write them down. And over the first 2 or 3 months, we made 2 maps of the main things that she needed to get done. And all I did was give feedback on that on a regular basis and give her the tool to make it look pretty.
But it would have been quicker for you at the beginning just to make a map.
Make a map and just keep doing the stuff myself.
Yeah.
But then to make the map for her and then force her to use my process.
Yeah.
And input equals ownership. And she would have had no ownership in that because she had no input in it.
Exactly. And so mapping here is something that at Achen Henderson, we dedicate a day a year to all hands, right? We go and we blow up old maps and we figure out what's broken and we gather intel throughout the year. And by the way, we're adjusting things as we go, but we engage, we set aside a day a year to run through the maps as a team and decide what's wrong, just to keep it at the front of our minds. But we're constantly referencing them in meetings. They're constantly being updated by teams. And it's happening now pervasively throughout our organization without me. And there's maps that are out there that I've never looked at because people find it easier. And we've got a disparate team that are all over the world. Mm-hmm. And so this makes it ways, we cut our training time, Chuck. We hired a bookkeeper and it would take them 4 months to get up to speed. And then our whole bookkeeping team got sniped by a mid-market firm for 20% more pay and all this. And they lasted 4 months at those jobs and they'd all quit after 4 months because they're crappy jobs. But anyways, money talks, fair enough. And I went, you know what? The problem here is we need to get this training time down to 2 weeks, not 4 months. And we did it by using mapping because the clarity that people, they go, oh, thanks. This is great. I know exactly what I need to do.
Yeah. There's so many benefits of doing this stuff that I don't like and most business owners don't like, which is why we don't do it. And yet this is the map for getting off the treadmill.
Yeah.
You said it. I worked twice for somebody else in my life. And one of those times I got the job, the guys, and it was about a company of about 50 people and it grew to 300 100 while I was there. And the guy who ran the company said, okay, it's going to take you 2 years. We tell everybody that we hire, it's going to take you 2 years to figure out what we do. And, it's like, well,
That's motivating, eh?
yeah, that's motivating. And good luck with that, and you get thrown in the lion's den and off you go. You can't imagine the amount of time and money and energy that was wasted for every one of those 300 people. Well, after being there about 6 months, it took me about 6 months, but I did figure out the business. I worked at it really hard and wrote stuff down. And at about the 7th month mark, I did a freedom map, and it had like 7 steps in it, 7 blocks. It was a linear, here's what we do, and here's the things that we do. And I gave that to the head of human resources, and it literally cut the 2 years down to about 4 months.
Yeah.
And, so if you want to really make your business more effective, that's just hiring is just one way that makes it more effective. Your interface with your customers, the number one thing that a customer wants is consistency.
Yeah.
And to know that every time they experience you, they experience the same thing. Maps help you with that. There's so many things they help with, but for me as a business owner, they help me more to get off the treadmill.
Let me talk about that for a minute. So here's how we've used freedom mappings for our onboarding process. So we've got a fairly, complicated. It's complicated, but it's anyways, complicated versus complex.
Complicated things are hard to understand, but they're fixed.
Yeah, they're fixed. And so ours is complex, where every business owner that comes in is they're a different emotional state. They're a different financial state. It's a different business model. And so you try and niche down into a specific industry, and that works well for a lot of people. But so how do we approach freedom mapping on an onboarding? So when we bring somebody in, we're taking over their back office accounting. We're often plopping a fractional CFO in there to start making some real meaningful change. And then we're doing their year-end compliance. We're running through their structure to make sure, and all of those things are mapped out. Well, why not share that with your customer, right? And we've got it right on our website. Here's our 4-step process to get you through. And people read that and they can go, okay, I'm in this stage.
Yeah.
And then we go through onboarding. And our biggest roadblock to onboarding is our customers not responding to us because they got other stuff going on, right? Like, of course, every entrepreneur is slammed and nobody wants to deal with their accounting. They know they have to. And it only is later when the light bulbs start turning on and the fractional CFO starts implementing some strategy and the money starts rolling that they go, oh, I really like accounting now. But we're not there yet. We're on onboarding.
Right.
And so we are constantly checking in with our clients to go, you're here in the process. Here's the map. Here's where you are. This would move faster if you'd participate more, just saying. But also it gives them some clarity as to when they can hit the destination, where they are in the destination. So what we've done to supplement this is we have steps that we have to get through and they're universal steps. And so we send out videos on a drip campaign that I've made. They're professionally made videos of what the next thing is that's going to happen, right? Here's today we're getting you into our company portal. And then the phone call comes an hour after, we've got a scheduled phone call right after that video comes. Hey, did you watch the video? No, sounds good. Let's reschedule this phone call till tomorrow. Give you a chance to watch that video. And so, our process map matches our videos, matches our phone calls, and everybody's in sync because they have a map to run off, right?
Okay.
And it improves the client experience dramatically.
Yes. You just blew through about 7 things that are good reasons to have freedom mapping. And one of them you blew through was actually sales. When you have a map of how your customer experience will go, hey, here's what you will experience with us. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then on a regular basis, we'll give you this. And then you have to give that back to us. And you get this simple little map to them. It puts you on a level that well above anybody else around you, including giant corporations.
None of your competition is doing it.
We would, in our fulfillment business, we went up against giants, billion-dollar companies, and we were a little $9 million company. And we'd walk in to these giant technology and health companies, world-class companies, and we'd show them our map, our freedom map of how we would actually work with them. And we'd get the work, and they'd say, yeah, the other guys came in with 7 suits, and they were impressive. And you came in and gave us your project manager and showed us who we'd actually work with and how the business would actually work. And it elevates a small business to a place. We have realtors who do this, Clayton, who go up against every realtor in the world because real estate is always the same. Well, no, it's not. And this woman sits across the table from somebody else and says, here's my map of how I will work with you. And she gets clients because we want certainty. The worst of human conditions is uncertainty. Yeah. And mapping gives them that. So sales is a great reason to do this. Onboarding. Let me scare people that the first few seconds that you have someone with you in their new job will have a measurable determination of how they work for the next 2 years and how their team works for the next few years. Onboarding maps can solve that all for you. We'll do a whole separate podcast on that. But yeah, there's so many reasons why this works for you. Give us some maybe one or two other things before we close out here on how we can do this, or how you've experienced it working.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't want to give you rainbows and sunshine all day. Like, this is hard stuff to get implemented and get moving when you're starting from zero. So if, for listeners who are listening to this and they're going, man, that sounds tough. Yeah, it is. It certainly is. But you just have to keep in mind your Fridays off. Like, you just have to keep in mind where you're going with this, because you go, I got enough stuff going on. I got I'm wearing all the hats. Well, this is how you start. People go, well, where do I even start? Yeah. I need to focus on my business, not work in my business, that old adage. Well, this is how you start, right? You start by mapping out what it is this is the one thing that you can do to start. And it sucks and it's hard, but then it doesn't suck because you've done it enough and you get good at it. And then your team takes over and it perpetuates and it snowballs, but you have to beat the drum and you have to stick with it. And this is the one thing. This is the ticket, man. This is the ticket to Fridays off.
It goes back to the thing you said early on about what we should make a map about. Things that are broken or things that are guaranteed to break, which tends to be this is all in somebody's head. Yeah. It's already broken. My sales process is broken, or fill in the blank. Then I need to map that. You will find out why it's broken and you will be able to fix it. Or, this is working great, but if I go on vacation, the world's going to fall apart.
I want to touch on what you said there because it's so important, which is broken or bound to break. Use your failures as a moment to evaluate your process maps, or at least do them. Like, we just lost 2 clients this month, right? And so now we have to do a serious debrief on why did we lose that client. In one of the cases, I'm 99% confident it's because they don't like our process and we hold them accountable, and they don't like accountability. And we lose a lot of clients because of that, because our system is designed to hold the mirror up in front of you.
Nothing you can or want to do about that one. That's
but if there is a piece in there, if there's a micro piece in the process that caused that trigger where they went, you know what, I'm going to start looking somewhere else. What was the experience break in the chain that maybe we can improve, right? And so you use your failures as opportunities to learn more and make yourself better and go get better clients that are going to enjoy this more, right? So,
and sometimes I've used maps once for that purpose. Let's figure out why this didn't work or why our process isn't working. We did this with a client once years ago and found out they were losing thousands of dollars a month. And they found out if they picked up, we don't have time to go into the story, but it's intriguing. If we mapped the week-long process, and we found out that if they picked the mail up at 3:00 in the afternoon instead of 9 in the morning, they saved $4,000 a month or a week. And they never had to use that process map again, that freedom map again. So there's plenty of reasons to do this, but you do it when things are broken or when they're guaranteed to break. And you end up with 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 maps that you're using regularly. And then you'll make others like the one-offs to start a new process, but they'll fall by the wayside. Let them. Don't try and keep 30 maps afloat, because having 30 equally will take your attention away from the 4 that really matter.
Yeah, really, really good points. The other thing that I like about these maps is we'll often have a debrief on a situation, like something goes wrong. Like we missed a deadline. We don't miss deadlines, but maybe we missed a deadline, or we failed to do something in our delivery model. And it always comes back to now where if we have a map for it, we could say, okay, what part of this is the part where the failure happened, right? And so, and instead of berating, so from a leadership perspective, instead of coming in and going, you screwed up and the question that I always ask is what broke in the process? Help me understand here. And it's one of two things. The process needs to be blown up or modified, or somebody didn't follow the process.
Right.
Either and it becomes incredibly obvious.
Yeah, it's one of those two things. I need to change, or the process needs to change.
Yeah. And when you're having a group meeting with a bunch of your peers around a table, and somebody has to raise their hand and go, yeah, that's the box that I didn't deal with properly. That's pretty effective stuff, as opposed to me, going in there and smacking them on the wrist with a yardstick.
Another of the myriad of benefits of freedom mapping. Instead of you being the bad guy, the map is the bad guy. Yeah. And the map becomes the go-between that we discuss. Here's our boss. This map is our boss. Yeah. And how's the boss, what's the boss telling us about our work? Well, again, we could just keep going. We will do another whole podcast on how the 9 steps of how to build a podcast podcast. So look for how to build a freedom map. So look for that. And for now, let's just give people your information on how to get a hold of you for accounting, as well as joining a 3 to 5 club and figuring out how to do this mapping stuff.
Yeah, great. So I have a 3 to 5 club in Canada. We focus on freedom mapping once a year. It's one of the ones that happens regularly because
people can zoom in for that as well.
Yeah,
they don't have
for
to
sure.
be in Calgary.
No problem. Yeah. If you're in Calgary, we have a beautiful office here and we love to do them in person whenever possible. You can get me at Clayton at achenhenderson.ca, ACHEN Henderson.ca, or just go to the website, achenhenderson.ca, fill out a form there. It'll find its way to me. And that's how you get a hold of me, or ping me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So
beautiful. Well, this has been fun. Look forward to creating more freedom in our businesses and working with you to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. Thanks. Hey, life-changing stuff here, man. And I appreciate you compiling other people's thoughts and adding your own flair to it. And you do it so well. So
thank you so much.
All right.
That wraps up another episode of the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button to ensure you are receiving the latest tools you need to grow your business and to get off the treadmill. If you want more information on the 3 to 5 Club, the Crankset Group, or to book Chuck as a business advisor, speaker, or workshop leader, you can contact us at grow, GROW, at cranksetgroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.